This is just a heads up, and I'll probably put this at the beginning of several videos. I am going to be including several points in this video where an ad could potentially be placed. This is in hope to future-proof my videos for changes that YouTube is going to be making going forward. So if there is just a random time where we fade to black, don't be alarmed. That's just where I'm hoping that YouTube will allow me to place an ad potentially. Hello, it's your favorite indie author, Julian Greystoke. That's me, by the way. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. For those of you who might not know, I am an author as well as a developmental editor, and I like to make videos about writing tips. Today, our writing tips are going to be about killing your characters. Whoa. Something some people love to do and something some people are like, absolutely not. So let's find that middle ground and chat about it. As usual, these are just tips, not hard and fast rules that you have to follow. Because I, say it with me, I'm not the god of writing. I'm just an author and an editor with some experience. These are just some tips for you to potentially follow if they strike you. If it brings you joy, use it. If it doesn't, then don't. That simple. All right, let's get right on onto my tips. Well, the first things to go over are why to kill him, when to kill him, who to kill, and how to kill him. What fun. I'm going to see if I can get demonetized for saying a bad word too many times because YouTube might not like that word. Before we continue, I did just want to say that this video is not for fake outs. So if you enjoy a good fake out, this is not the video for you. We're going to be talking about the real thing, the permanent thing where you have offed a character. So why would I off any of my beloved characters? They are all my children and I love them. Well, sometimes the best way to really get some emotion out of a situation is to put an end to somebody. And the more you love the character, the better the chance that the reader will love the character, and then they will be devastated by the loss of that character. It can also be a really great way to give your other characters a low point in the story when their buddy dies. Some people also use the death of a character or characters to make it clear how dire a situation is. Like, say we're at war. It seems very unlikely that everybody's just gonna make it out of war just fine. Killing off characters proves to the reader that this situation is not just something that's fine and okay. This is really serious and the characters are in real peril, and that's gonna get your reader gripping the book, hyper invested, unable to stop turning the page. Now, yes, it might also make your readers mad at you, but that's kind of what we live for as authors. If readers aren't furious with us for killing off their favorites, what are we even doing? Now let's talk about when to kill a character. A lot of people are tempted to off somebody right away as the book is starting. I have seen many books, both published and also in my editing, where we are told that a sibling or a family member or something has recently died or dies in the first chapter. And unfortunately for me, that's a no-go. Because we are not given enough time to get to know this character, we are really relying on the main character's reaction to this death for the connection to the dead character. And a lot of times we are also just meeting the main character. And if we've got somebody we don't know who's sad about the death of somebody else we really don't know, it is very hard for your reader to get invested. They're also going to be grieving that character, so that's a lot. That's a lot to dump on your reader right away. And if the main character doesn't grieve the character you just killed, then why did you kill them? I guess maybe to prove the situation is serious, but I will say that some of this also does depend on genre, because in certain types of books, you can start off with a character unaliving because, say, it's a zombie book and you need to set the tone of the situation by having a lot of people done in by zombies, or it's a murder mystery and you have to start off with the murder. There are definitely reasons to start off a book with an offing of a character. What I'm talking about here is more what I've been seeing, where an author will try to get emotion from readers right away by starting off by offing a character, but it doesn't work for the reasons I just talked about. I'm not saying you can never start a story with a death of a character. Just know that it's not going to hit as hard as it would if that character was further down the line. You can try to make it hit hard by doing things like having a familial connection where your reader can be like, gosh, I would also be really sad if my sister died. But you're relying on external factors there instead of what the book has given your reader, and those, as an author, you really can't control. Like I said, I'm not the god of writing, so if you want to kill a character off early, you can. Just know it's not going to have the same impact. When should you kill somebody off? Well, one of the best times to do it is not necessarily in the final battle, but in a big conflict before the final battle. This can help your characters go into that state of the dark night of the soul, their lowest moment that they're going to need to rise out of to win the day in the final battle. You can also kill characters off in the final battle, and lots of people do it, and that is a good way to not have to deal very much with their deaths, because if it's the final battle, well, that's sad and they're dead, but the book's over. You don't have to have as much mourning process for the other characters, which can maybe bog down your writing. So I also see the allure of killing people off in the final battle. However, you can also kill them off in the final battle of book 1, in which case then you do have to deal with the grieving, but that's coming up in book 2. Next up, the question is, who do we off? Very seldom do you see a main character being offed. It does happen, but most of the time it's at the very end of a book or a series. And I will say that it should not be done unless you're positive that that is the best thing for your story. If you're just like, oh, no one's gonna see this coming, I'm gonna kill off my main character at the end, ha, what a twist, that might not be the best reason. However, if you are writing a really intense story, say about death, then maybe killing off your main character is on theme. And of course, if you kill off your main character whenever you do it, you have to figure out who's going to become your new viewpoint character. However, most of the time, it is side characters and, of course, bad guys that we kill off. A lot of times, the easiest ones to kill are side characters that we gave a name and maybe where they were in a couple of scenes, so the reader is familiar with them, but we don't care enough that their death will rip us apart or really affect the main character all that much. Those are usually the kind of deaths that you get when we need to prove a situation is serious, like we are at war and we need a lot of casualties. Killing off a few named characters will pack a little bit more of a punch than killing off nameless, faceless soldiers. However, if you want to pack a real punch, you want to kill off somebody that your reader likes, and also, preferably, that your main character likes. So if an emotional gut punch is what you're going for, you're gonna have to kill off somebody you love. And that's going to suck, but also you can sit there and tense your little author fingers and think about how emotionally devastated you will hopefully be making your readers, because everybody knows that authors live off of reader tears. It's true. Don't let anybody tell you different. Now, we have decided why, when, and who, but how? How shall we off our characters? There are a plethora of delightful ways, but it kind of depends a little bit on how graphic you want to be with it. So if you are in a fantasy book, you've got all of your great fantasy options, be it magic, eaten by a dragon, stabbed in a duel, so many options. But whatever kind of book you're writing, obviously a genre will come into play with how these characters are offed. If they are an important character who means a lot to the reader and the main character, offing them in some way that pertains to the plots or the themes of the book is going to be especially important. For example, if it's a zombie apocalypse book, having them eaten by some random zombie, whatever. Having them eaten by the zombie of their beloved brother who just turned, mwah. There's even things like having to have your main character kill somebody. That can be really impactful and powerful, especially if the person is not like just a mwahaha villain, but potentially they're a villain who maybe we saw a chance at redeeming. And then, we gotta end them. Shame. Once again, we're trying to maximize reader tears here. But remember, the important thing is, what does offing that character do for your story? Because everything should be in advancement of the story. I very much caution you to avoid doing things simply for shock factor. Unless maybe you're writing something like a thriller, where the point really is to just keep your reader unsettled at all times. Consider what killing them does for your story, or keeping them alive, because it's happened to me and it's probably happened to you, where you have a character that you intended to off, and then you decide, no, I like them too much and I want to keep them alive. But presumably their offing was going to be doing something for your story that is now not going to be achieved. So that's something to think about. You might have to put a different character in their spot, or you might actually have to kill them off if your story is going to go the way that you had planned it. Now let's talk about what kind of deaths you probably want to avoid, because there are some types that are harmful stereotypes. And I've made a short list, but I'm sure there are more that you could name, so feel free to add to my list in the comments below. The first one is, of course, the bury your gays or the tragic gay cliches. So this often happens if there is only one queer character, or if there are two queer characters and they are in love, because I don't know why, but in media we've just decided that if there's two people who are gay and happy together, one of them has to die for the pathos. And that is called burying your gays. Now, that's not to say that you can never kill off a queer character. You definitely can, but you want to avoid if they are the only queer character in your book. And if they're in a happy relationship, maybe just let them have that. Just think about letting them have that. There are other tragic things that you could have happen in your book. Or, you could kill off one leg of a heterosexual couple. Things to think about. The redemption death, when the death is the only thing that redeems the character. I'm looking at you, Snape. A lot of people really love that character, but as a general rule of thumb, you want to watch out for redeeming a character with death alone. If you've got this villain that you want to redeem, and the only redeeming thing that they did was die heroically, that's not actually all that redeeming if you think about it, because they never actually made amends or apologized or anything like that to the people that they hurt. They just swooped in last minute to die, and all of a sudden everybody starts treating them like a hero. So think about avoiding that. It's not that you can't have a redemptive death, but I encourage you to put some actual redemption in there first, before all they do to redeem themselves is die. I'm also looking at you, Violet's mother from the Fourth Wing series.
By the way, if you have the urge to go into my comment section and argue with me about how Snape was so much more meaningful than his death, I'm probably not going to interact with those comments, just so you're aware.
And yes, I do feel that just having a character show up to say all of the things that they were actually doing in the main character's benefit and then die, still not enough. Again, Violet's mother, Fourth Wing series. Another thing you want to avoid is the person of color is the only one to die or dies first. That old chestnut needs to go. Again, like offing a queer character, it's not that you can't put an end to a person of color in your story. You just want to make sure that they're not the only one, and probably that they don't go first, because that, thanks to a lot of movies, has become a harmful cliche. And my last one on the list of things to watch out for is what I call kill a woman about it. That is where you've got a usually male main character and he needs motivation. So you kill a woman about it. Whether it's his mother, his wife, his daughter, you find somebody that he loves that is female and you kill them off to motivate the man. I find that to be a deeply harmful trope. It has been around for such a long time. Many people would call it fridging a woman, but I like my version better. So if you've got yourself a main character and you realize, oh, I've done that, you can always go back and tweak it and have it so he can be motivated to do something without a dead woman involved. Maybe he wants to do right for the world because his beloved mother is still alive and he wants to make a better world for her, or a better world for his daughter or his wife or whoever. And I know a lot of beloved stories do have this trope in it, but the stories aren't beloved because of the trope. And in fact, I think if the author had found a way around using that trope, the stories and the characters could still be as beloved.
So I've thought of another one. This is one that has legitimately made me set a book down. You see it a little bit in like dystopian or like apocalyptic books, and that is the disabled person, quote unquote, nobly sacrificing themselves because they would slow down their able-bodied comrades. That is a huge nope for me. That's another harmful trope that I have seen that I would encourage you to maybe avoid using in your book.
But I know the burning question that I can already feel you shouting at the screen is, Julian, do I have to off anybody? I don't want to off anybody. Why would I do that? And no, you don't. You don't have to off anybody, but that very much depends on the type of story that you're writing. If you are writing, say, a cozy fantasy, you probably don't have to off anyone. And you maybe even shouldn't. However, if you are writing a war story or something where there are deadly death games where everybody's in competition and people are supposed to perish, then yeah, you're probably going to have to off some characters. This is just a personal anecdote, but I've been seeing a lot of books that go out of their way to insist that the scenario the characters are in are some sort of deadly game where that character could die at any minute. But then so many people live, and that robs the story of feelings of danger for the main character. The Hunger Games would not have worked nearly so well if it wasn't set up with the premise that everybody except for one person was going to perish. And only through lengthy and set up plot reasons did two people get to survive, but that wasn't normal, and everyone else did, in fact, perish. So if you're writing the type of story where you're setting up to expect things to be deadly, you're going to have to make them deadly. But like I said, take into consideration the type of book that you're writing, and also take into consideration where in a series you are. For example, in book 1 of your 3-book series, you maybe don't have to kill anybody, or at least nobody super important. But by book 3, as the big bad is looming over the series and the characters are in peril and the stakes have never been higher, now it might be your time to off somebody. But ultimately, it is up to you when you do it, when it feels right for a certain character. For example, in a book that I'm writing right now, there will be a fairly bloody battle at the end of book 1. I'm hoping it's going to be a duology, but there's going to be a bloody battle at the end of book 1, and some characters are going to perish at the end of book 1. But on the other hand, I tend to be a writer who doesn't like to kill characters off willy-nilly, so it's really kind of up to you. Some people take a great pleasure in killing off characters while others don't, and that's okay. I have seen a lot of complaints about authors being afraid to kill off characters, and a lot of very big popular authors who don't kill off characters. And I will say that a problem you can run into if you're writing especially a long series and you don't kill off characters is you can start to have too many characters. And the more characters you have to juggle, the more you're going to struggle with keeping track of them, making them relevant, keeping them important, giving them things to do and lines to say, because there's just too many. So if you find yourself with a preponderance of characters kicking around, it might be time to off a few. So there you go. Those are my thoughts for offing your characters. Let's hope I don't get demonetized or have a warning put on the front of this video. I have enough trouble getting my videos seen without that sort of thing happening. Anyway, like always, feel free to comment below and let me know your tips for offing characters that you have gained along the way in your writing process. And I hope that you will all go to the comment section to see what other people have said. Don't forget that I am also an author and you can purchase my books now. They're available on Amazon, and more will come out eventually. Also, as I mentioned, I'm a developmental editor, so if you'd like to enlist my services for your book, like perhaps you don't know if you should kill off a certain character and you want to ask advice about that, you can find me on Fiverr. I also offer coaching sessions so we can sit down one-on-one and talk about your book. Love doing that. It's so fun. I try to keep my services affordable and I have pretty quick turnaround, so message me over there. I also have a Patreon and channel membership, so if you want to see videos that are not seen here on the regular channel, you can check that out. A lot of times it is extras that go with like my read-along videos. So if you want even more of my thoughts about some of the crazy stuff that I read here, you can become a patron or a channel member for that. But thank you all so much for watching today. I hope some of these tips were helpful, and I will see all of you again next time with whatever it is I happen to be doing next time. Bye!
Just fear me, love me, do as I say, and I will be your slave.
Okay, so you could do what Jareth suggests, and I'd totally understand if you would, or you could just become a patron on my Patreon, just like all these lovely people, like Zenith, Corey, Ashley, Bunna, Nemo, Tactical Hot Dog, Haley History Nerd, Stephanie, Rhea, Christina, Cameron, Lady Kragan, Jose, Lunar Muse, AJ, Marshy, Semi-Dark, GK, Scout, Annika, Jen, Gay Tutter, Tina, Laknuga, SB Boots, Martha Baggins, July, Bird Anonymous, Sarah, Kat, 78 Kilograms of Shade, Ingrid, Roma, Pansing Pony, Haley, Sam, Kira, Kohikaro, Mooney, Puttamancer, Kirsten, Bear, Jojo Bookish, Robin, Ursula, Caitlin, KJ, Mufflier, Celia, Alyssa, Deborah, Swamp Goblin Waifu, Sophia, Merween, Kit, Hidden Glade, Light Julie, Patrick, Anne Sophie, Callison, Vampire Antihero, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Rennie, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, and Amanda.
You have no power over me.